Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me. My name is Stel. If you're new to the channel, do hit the subscribe and like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Now, as you may be aware, us YouTubers all think that we have contacts and of one kind of another to bring you all the latest news about West Ham, what's going on behind the scenes and so on. As far as I'm concerned, I don't always reveal what I'm told because firstly, I never profess to be an ITK. And secondly, if those rumors don't come about or can be disproved in some way, then the first person that's going to look like a chump is me. So please don't think I'm breaking any news to you today. This information's already out there in one format or another. You only have to look for it. And if you look hard enough, you'll find it yourselves. So, what am I going to talk about? But before I do talk about the managerial situation, we've got to congratulate the under-18s, don't we? On Thursday night at the London Stadium, they played in the semi-final of the FA Youth Cup and they beat Southampton convincingly 6-1. Just an unbelievable performance by them. There were around 7,000 fans at the stadium on Thursday night, and after witnessing the performance the senior team put in against Newcastle at the same stadium, you got to hand it to Kevin Keane's side. They were superb. They brought a smile back to the faces of a lot of West Ham fans. A 6-1 result, and I guess if you've got faith in your players and you send them out to express themselves and go into a game full of confidence, they know what they're going to deliver, and they delivered superbly. So well done to Kevin Keane. He's done a brilliant job there at West Ham. Fancy a job in managing the senior side? There may be a vacancy available anytime soon. So let's get on to that main topic because this is about some news about our managerial situation. Look, there have been moments throughout the season where you can ask yourself, can it get any worse? And for some of you, that question sort of happened quite early in the season. The first game of the season, in fact, when we played Man City and we lost quite timidly 2-0. All right, Man City are a very good side, but it looked like David Moyes set up a defensive-minded team to try and contain them, and it never worked. It's never worked, has it really? And some people were saying from the very first game of the season that kind of set the precedent for the rest of the season. For others, it was a game just before the World Cup when we lost 2-0 at home to Leicester, which which saw us go into the World Cup break on a losing streak. We were just 4 wins out of 15 games by that time, and we were languishing at the bottom of the league, and we haven't really recovered since, have we? The return of the Premier League after the World Cup saw us pick up a few more wins, but simply not much change in tactics, not much change in team selections, not much change in approach, etc. And we've only won 3 games of our last 14 ever since. For me, it was the new year that really broke the camel's back for me when I realised that David Moyes was never really going to change his ways, that his stubbornness could eventually lead us to quite possibly relegation from the Premier League. And to be quite honest with you, it was the game. It got even worse, didn't it? In March, we had the humiliating defeat against Brighton when we lost 4-0 away. And that was the first time that you heard the away fans actually turn on Moyes. And if you thought that was bad, it got even worse. And that was against Newcastle, where it was a really humiliating defeat, 5-1. Look, let's be clear and let's be straight. There were many defensive errors that Moyes can't help. You can't account for defensive errors in a game. You know, you can set a team up to go out there and do a job, but if there's an error there, then it throws everything out of kilter. And we made one error after another. All 4 of their first goals were error driven, really. And even though we sort of got back into the game by half time, only 2-1 down, but we were back in it. That there was a buzz at the stadium. We thought that we got ourselves back in the game. We're on their shirt tails. We're on the up by half time. But what happens? You can't again. You can't make the mistake that we did right at the beginning of the second half, and that killed the game. It killed the atmosphere. It physically drained the players. You can see the sort of life draining out of them. And I already said in my reviews that for me, The minute we went 3-1 down, that's when Moyes should have made changes. He should have brought players on then, not waited 15 minutes, and then when the changes he made really didn't make much difference because he changed like for like rather than going for something different. So now we find ourselves on the eve of yet another crucial must-win game at 3 o'clock on Saturday when we go to West London rivals Fulham, and yet the latest game that is marked as must-win out of a terrible season that we've had so far. This could be a good time to playing Fulham, to be quite honest with you. We know that Alexander Mitrovic is banned for 8 games now. He's suspended. And we know that they'll be without Niskan Cabano and Levin Kazawa, who are both ruled out with injury. However, Willian is back for Fulham after serving a ban against Man United for the handball. And Fulham have had a bit of a poor run recently. The last win that they had was at the end of February when they beat Leeds 2-0 in the FA Cup. And their last league win was mid-February when they beat Brighton away 1-0. However, since then, since the Leeds game, they have lost their last 4, with the last defeat was away to Bournemouth 2-1. As for West Ham, we did manage to get 3 points against Southampton in our last game last weekend, and then of course the 5-1 drubbing that came against Newcastle. So we're going into this game with a mixed bag of results recently. Of course, there's no real way of knowing just how badly the 5-1 defeat is going to affect the players psychologically when we go and play Fulham on Saturday. I guess we'll only know when the game starts itself. One thing that Moyes really has to do is to shake up the team a bit. If he's true to his word, if you play well, then you keep the shirt. Then I expect to see a number of players who didn't play well over the last few games to lose their places on Saturday. Strictly speaking, for me, Areola should be called back into goal. Soufal should replace Kehrer. Maybe Ogbonna should replace Agurd. And either Downs, Fornals or Lanzini should be starting ahead of Soucek. And that's 4 changes straight away there. However, we know that the only changes he's likely to make is going to be Soufal for Kehrer, and that'll probably be it. For me, the starting lineup should look something like this. I'd have Areola back in goal. My defence would be Soufal, Zuma. I'd keep Agurd and Emerson. I'd keep Paquetá as well as Declan Rice. And then another change, either Lanzini or Fornals for me in the middle of the park. And then Bowen and Cornet and Ings up front. Now, I'm not dropping Benrahma for anything that he's done wrong. But for me, tactically, I think with the pace that Cornet may have, the pace that Cornet does have, I should say, I think tactically he may be a bit of a better option to really go at Fulham at the weekend. Now, the one thing that seems for certain is that all of a sudden we're hearing that Sullivan, who has been saying for all of the season that he's fully behind Moyes, he's changed his tone a little bit. The chairman seems to have finally changed his approach towards David Moyes, probably especially because of the 5-1 drubbing that we suffered against Newcastle. So, if he's going to make changes, why not do it now, I hear you ask? And it's been reported that Sullivan's unwilling to make a decision before the weekend because the game has come a little bit too soon after the Newcastle game, the Fulham game. From my understanding, had we not had Fulham coming so soon, then quite possibly the Newcastle game might have been David Moyes' last game in charge. So it's now all eyes on the game against Fulham. And this time it really is a must-win for David Moyes. Again, from what I've been told, even a draw may not be enough to keep him in his job. If we lose or even draw, Sullivan is likely to prefer to bring in an interim manager between now and the end of the season, when then he can spend time setting up a longer-term replacement for the start of next season. He has started to sound out people about asking their advice as to who they would like to see take charge of the team in the short term. And it looks as if only a win against Fulham is going to stop Sullivan from making that decision. From the rumours knocking around, several names have been mentioned about the possibility of an interim manager coming in after the Fulham game to see the team through to the end of the season. And a few surprising ex-West Ham manager names have cropped up, with Alan Kirbishley being one and Slaven Bilic being another potential. Now, look, for Kirbishley, he hasn't been in management for something like 15 years. And when I asked about the former manager, I said, look, I doubt Sullivan would really reach out to him, and I doubt Kirbishley would want to take it. And the reply I got was true and true. So I think, he's been mentioned a few times, but I think it's a bit of a long shot that Kirbishley would become our next manager, even for the interim. When it comes to Slaven Bilic, I doubt he'd wanted to. I doubt he'd want to accept an interim role at West Ham United or anywhere, to be quite honest with you. And I think the only reason that his name was broadcast was to parody that Chelsea have just brought back Frank Lampard. You couldn't make it up if you tried. But the serious point of this matter is now it seems that Sullivan is concerned, and he seems now to be teetering on wanting to make a change at West Ham. Just how many potential candidates may want to take the role for the short term, I don't know. However, Sullivan could maybe do no worse than perhaps bringing in the likes of maybe Nolan and Kevin Keane as a unit together. Would that be such a bad idea to see us through the end of the season? Apparently, Sullivan isn't that keen on Nolan because of his recent record in management. He doesn't necessarily think he's got the managerial experience to guide us through to safety. As for the long term, at this moment in time, there were two names mentioned that really like to take that could possibly take over the mantle at West Ham, and that's current Italian national manager Roberto Mancini and the recently sacked manager Brendan Rodgers from Leicester. With regards to Mancini, look, he's on quite a long contract. He recently, in 2021, he signed an extended contract with Italy all the way through to 2026. So unless Mancini is extremely unhappy in managing the national side, I'm not sure he's going to want to leave West Ham. I'm not sure if he's going to want to leave Italy to take up West Ham. But having said that, Mancini is rumoured to want to have a project back in the Premier League. And if he thinks that quite possibly West Ham United is a decent project to go for, who knows? But there'll be a hell of a lot of compensation to pay. He's on about £8 million a year, or he'd want around £8 million a year, and he'll also want to bring his entourage with him. So that would be quite a large chunk of money to actually lure Mancini away from the Italian job. However, Brendan Rodgers, he's considered to be unlucky to have lost his job at Leicester, according to some sources, because they thought that he had the lack of funds available to him, and he had to sell his prize asset in Wesley Fofana to Chelsea. So it sounds as if people think he was unlucky to have lost his job, given that he wasn't given a lot of money to actually build the Leicester squad to keep it strong. He's looked upon quite favourably as a potential suitor by David Sullivan, and Rodgers himself has suggested that he's looking forward to having a chance to reflect and recharge and get ready for the next opportunity. However, he hasn't put a timescale on how long he wants to reflect and recharge. Could it be until the end of the season? Could it be a few weeks? Could it be a few months? We don't know. Hence the current thinking of putting in an interim manager for now until Rodgers is ready to return to management is the proposal at the moment. Hopefully by then we'll still be an attractive proposition and continue to be a Premier League club. Thank you for watching. Short and brief. I hope you liked what you heard, and do subscribe to the channel, like I said, and hit the like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on, and I'll see you all soon.